Howdy, everybody.
How's it going?
What's up? Welcome to Beards of Kentucky. That is the name of this channel. And we talk a lot about music over here. Today on this video, we're going to be talking about Arcade Fire and their 6-album discography.
Yeah, Arcade Fire, one of my favorite bands, maybe my favorite band. Yeah, I mean, I've always been kind of in love with them, with their sound. You know, they're indie, but they make extremely catchy songs. So this is always something I've wanted to do, go through and talk about them. So, yeah, that's what we're doing today.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Hey, before we dive in, hey, do us a flavor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and say what's up in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on Arcade Fire. What's your favorite album? How would you rank their albums? All those sorts of things. We are going to stick around to the end. We are going to each give our rankings of their 6 albums.
Yeah, it'll be kind of tough.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tough for sure. All right. Hey, I want to start off by just mentioning that Arcade Fire does have an EP that came out before their first album. And Brannick, you said, we were just talking about it just a second ago, you said you haven't really ever listened to that first EP
Yeah,
that much.
mean, I remember going back and trying to listen to it, but it wasn't what I expected, so I didn't really stick around for it. I think I listened to a couple tracks, and I never really came back to it. I do remember it was pretty lo-fi. The sound kind of reminded me of the sound of like Black Mirror, except maybe a little more not as slickly produced.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really know any of the songs on there. I remember that No Cars Go was on there, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely something I need to go back and listen to.
Yeah.
At some point, but
yeah, I mean, as a big Arcade Fire fan, you definitely want to. It's not. It's honestly, in my opinion, it's nothing to write home about. Like, it's really, you listen to it now. I think in hindsight, and it's kind of surprising that this band went on to become Arcade Fire. Right, went on to become such a. They really, in the space of basically a year, they went from an EP, which was, even the songs aren't that great. Like, it's not really great production. And then they turned around and made an all-time classic, right, for their debut album. It's kind of, I think about, a lot of times with other bands that go on and make a lot of great albums, you kind of, like, if they put out an EP initially, you can kind of see it in their EP.
Yeah.
I think of, like, REM with Chronic Town, like, which to me is still one of, like, the best, like, so good. And they made Murmur. So it kind of, like, there's a continuity. But with Arcade Fire, again, it's like, I don't think, if you bought this EP, you would have thought it was anything particularly special at the time.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like their Pablo Honey, because
yeah, that's a good way of that's maybe a good way of thinking about it. Or did and then they, of course, Radiohead had a couple of EPs, I think, after Pablo Honey, which are also not that good.
They had the Drill.
Well, Drill,
EP.
did that come before Pablo
That came
Honey?
before, yeah.
Well, there you go. It's like, but then Pablo Honey wasn't even like. I mean, Pablo Honey was kind of a smash. Anyway, this isn't about Radiohead. All right, so their EP, don't think you're missing a whole lot, but you should still go listen to it because you're a big Arcade Fire fan.
Yeah.
All right, and then Funeral, right?
Funeral.
Album number 1, 2004.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's maybe the greatest debut album of all time.
Ooh, high praise.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that might be a little bit of a hot take, maybe not. I don't know. I know everyone loves this album. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that it's, they don't like it, but there's probably someone out there. Anyway, but I mean,
but we don't like them.
Yeah, we don't like them. No. Anyway, I mean, what really is there to say about this album aside from that it's, an all-time classic? I mean, all the songs on here are just so well written. The production is it's not like it's not too slickly produced, but it's not bad production in any way, and I mean, it's a great album. I love the opener, Neighborhood One. That's one of my favorite Arcade Fire songs. I think it really represents what Arcade Fire is.
I love
really
that, like, echoey piano.
I know,
like,
it sounds so beautiful.
I remember hearing it. I think the first song I ever heard by Arcade Fire was "Powers Out," and
that's the first song I heard by them.
I thought it was a really, like, cool, like, this song's really cool, and I heard people talking about the rest of the album, and so I checked
Mm-hmm.
it out. And this was back in the days when it was actually still, you had to actually go buy. You couldn't just like
Yeah.
pop it into your Spotify library or whatever and listen to it right away. You had to go buy it, or maybe get an MP3 or two on the internet. Um, but yeah, I remember hearing that opening track, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really good."
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the rest of the album, and it took me a little while to kind of get into the rest of the album, but I definitely, was like, "There's really something good, like, something really good going on here."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd say, um, there's not a mediocre song on
Oh
here,
yeah, all the
right?
songs are top
It's
tier.
10 top tier songs. It's really pretty amazing when I think about like the jump they had to make from the EP to this, and it's also, I believe, it's self-produced, right? I mean,
Is it?
yeah. I don't think they had a lot of help from outside, producers, which
Mm.
it has such a great sound too. Like
Yeah.
I think it just has a fantastic sound to it. So
Yeah, I mean, it really did like kind of you know, it really did like paint the I don't really know that many indie albums from this time period,
hmm
but I feel like it kind of like laid down the groundwork for the sort of production style that a lot of indie albums, use. Like this sort of indie album like the Decemberists would make maybe.
mm-hmm.
I feel like they have very similar
There's
production.
kind of, I would call it like kind of a baroque sound, like a
Baroque, yeah.
baroque pop kind of sound.
Yeah,
A
chamber
lot
pop.
of yeah, like the strings and the piano, in addition
Mhm.
to like the rock instrumentation, like the traditional rock instrumentation. Um, gives it a little bit of more of a high art sort of sound, but high art, but also like kind of folksy at the same time.
Yeah.
Really interesting sort of mixture of different styles there, but they own it all, and they really do such a good job of bringing it all together. What's your favorite track from this album? If you had to
Uh
pick one.
it would be really hard. I love the first three neighborhood cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Power Out. That was the first one I heard. Um I love Rebellion. Um, you
Gotta
know.
pick one. Gotta pick
I know.
one.
I'm just saying which ones I love real quickly. I'll give you one real quickly after this. But I also love the closer in the backseat, which might be their best closer.
Uh-huh.
Wake Up is iconic, and Crown of Love is really great. But for a favorite, let's see. I think I'm gonna go with Power Out. That's the first song I ever heard by them,
Yeah.
and I love that riff that they bring in like halfway through the song. That's one of my favorite things that Arcade Fire's ever
Yeah,
done.
I remember that now. It's been a little
Yeah.
while since I've kind of just I did listen to it recently, but
Mm-hmm.
the whole album recently, but it's been a while since I remember I used to love they used to be on like my workout mix,
Mm-hmm.
and because that song got me amped up, and I just thought it had a really like I really love the guitar playing in that song, so I do remember that. So that's a good choice. I would
Yeah.
pick Rebellion Lies.
Yeah.
Of course, this feels like an album where I could go back and forth, and I'll probably pick
Yeah,
a new one
and I
every couple
mean,
weeks. But
next time I listen to it, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, this song's amazing," you
but
know?
I'm such a sucker for a drive, like kind of the driving bass line, the
Yeah,
and I just love the way this one builds too, and then the lies, like that
yeah,
just, oh, I love that. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's a little playful,
yeah,
and it's one of the more lighthearted songs on the album, for an album called Funeral. But I mean, anyway, yeah,
yeah.
Funeral, one of the best debut albums of all time,
hmm
one of the best indie albums of all time, probably.
All right, on a scale of A to F, where would how would you what grade would you give it?
I give it probably around an A, maybe an
A.
A plus.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I gave it an A plus. I gave it an A
Yeah,
plus. Definitely an all time classic debut.
yeah.
All right, so album 2 is Neon Bible.
Yep. Well, I mean, I love this album so much. Like, this one is really special to me. I remember listening to this like on the way to the beach with my friends. Driving on the windy roads. It's a really great memory.
Mm,
Listening to like I think it was Black Waves.
mm,
Uh, and Bad Vibrations, which that's a great song, very eerie.
mm-hmm.
Um, I love Intervention. That's one of their most beautiful,
Mm.
heartbreaking songs, and it's one of my favorites by
Using
them.
using the organ,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Which, speaking of
grand
this,
organ there.
this album was recorded in a church.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it sounds very orchestral, even more so than Funeral. And I mean, I don't think there's a bad song in this album. I think all the songs are, like I said with Funeral, top tier. And I especially love Keep the Car Running. That might be my favorite Arcade Fire song. It's so catchy, you know. I love all the different instruments they use. I mean, it's amazing, you know. It's everything that I love about Arcade Fire in one song. And I mean, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic album. I will say, when this came out initially, it took a little while to grow on me, and I really would say it's only, I mean, I liked a lot of the songs on it, but I wasn't as crazy about it as I was about Funeral. But in the last few years, I've really come to appreciate it on
it's a grower.
A little deeper. Like I really do love, it just the darkness of it, I guess. It's a very dark album, and
it's a bit more stripped back.
I really appreciate that. In some cases, and then you get like intervention with the big organ, and it's just so to me it's not like stylistically that differently, except that it just feels a little. It just feels a little.
The production I feel like is a bit different. Like with Funeral, if it sounds a bit more lush, like lush but lo-fi, whereas this one sounds a little rough.
Yeah,
like it sounds, maybe doesn't sound so, doesn't sound so flourishing. It sounds a little more compact.
All right, favorite track from this record?
Keep the Car Running. I mean, it's a great song. That song kind of.
That's a good one.
Yeah. What about you?
I would go with Black Wave, Bad Vibrations. And that definitely wasn't. I think when I first, the first few years of listening to this album, that was probably one of the tracks I most likely, that was likely to skip. But I've become a huge Regine, that's how you say her name, right?
Yeah, Regine.
I just love what she brings to the band. I really do.
Whenever she has a song on any of their albums, it's always one of the best ones.
Yeah, and I feel like they always have just this almost like this jarring effect whenever like she kind of takes center stage, and she brings this completely different twist to it, but it's still all Arcade Fire all the same, right? It still works somehow. And I like with like the synths are just like really eerie. Yeah, man, I just love. There's something about this song that's just amazing to me. Huge fan of that song. So
yeah. Also, speaking of Regine, I also really like the Well in the Lighthouse. I like how Wynn and Regine kind of go back and forth on that one. That's another one of my favorites off this album. So
yeah, good stuff.
Great follow up.
Good stuff. Well, what would you rate this one?
I give this an A+.
A+, wow, A+. All right, this is only an A for me, so I took it down a little bit. I will say the last song for me, My Body is a Cage, I've never really felt like that was as good as the rest of the record.
Yeah,
so.
I felt that way for a while, but it's grown on me a lot, I mean, it's hard that has to follow up No Cars Go, which is, one of their most iconic songs, I feel like.
Yeah, they really do a good job with No Cars Go here, by the way, as compared to, I think you said you've heard that,
I've heard the
original
old version,
EP version. Much better here than it was on the EP,
definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, album 3, The Suburbs.
The Suburbs. Yeah. Well, this is their longest album, track-wise, not length-wise. I'm pretty sure Reflector takes that one. But I mean, this is another classic, Pretty much this one's considered to be one of their best albums. This was my favorite album for a while. I love the more Springsteen inspired vibe.
I've never thought about Springsteen in the context of this album.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely hear it in there.
Okay.
The more arena rock sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I gotcha. All right.
I mean, the title track opens up the album great. I think it's one of their best opening tracks. And then Ready to Start is also one of my favorite songs by them. Sprawl 2, which is just it's such a great song. Like another great Regine song there. And I mean, I don't really think there's any bad songs on this album. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the last two. There's nothing on here that I'm skipping. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is, this is another one for me where I remember, I think they put out the initial single release from this album actually was Month of May, I believe. And
It was Suburbs in Month of May. Yeah.
well, the first track I ever had was I ever heard was Month of May. And,
okay.
and I remember thinking to myself, cause at the time I was coming off Neon Bible and I was like, it was good, but it wasn't like as good as Funeral. And I just kind of thought maybe they would like, kind of like, kind of not go upward trajectory, but kind of continue down. Because some bands do that. Some bands kind of have a big, big debut and everything, and they kind of they make some other good stuff, but they just kind of decline over the course of time. And I heard Month of May, and I was like, this is just kind of like punk trash kind of song to me. It doesn't really do anything for me, and it was fine, but it just didn't grab me in any meaningful way. And then so I didn't pay much attention, and then people started talking about this album and everything like that, and it was like, they're going to get a Grammy, and I was like, okay, maybe I should give it a listen to see what all the fuss is about. And I was pretty blown away by it. I think I was on a hangover when it came to Arcade Fire from Funeral for a long time, just like how good that record is. And so it took me a little bit, but I would listen to certain tracks and I'd be like, oh, that's a really cool song, like City with No Children.
That's a great song.
Such a great like riff. The riff at the beginning with the bass and the bass work and everything. And so this one was a grower for me, but I think it was finally it was a while before I heard Sprawl 2, and I mean that song just blew me away. I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever heard. Like,
Sprawl 2 is so good. Yeah.
And again, it was Regine, and I was just like, man, like her vocals on that song, oh man, like just so good. I really, I'm kind of just gushing now because that's how I feel about that song. It's just like I have so much appreciation, so much love for that one track. And after listening to that track and going back and listening to the album again, I was like, I get it now. All right, I get this record now. I really understand, and it made a lot more sense to me. So, anyway, what favorite track?
Man, I probably have to go with Ready to Start.
Right.
That song's so driving. But one that I've been listening to a lot recently, Suburban War, which is spectacular. That's pretty close to be my favorite on this one. So
nice.
What about you?
Well, what do you think I'm gonna say?
I'm gonna think you're gonna say The Suburbs Continued, but
yeah, Sprawl 2, Mountains Beyond Mountains. Again, you already heard me gush, so you don't need me to go on. So good. I love that song. Yeah, what would you rank? What grade would you give this record?
Man, I A plus. I mean, all these first three albums are just, I mean, they're some of my favorite albums of all time. I mean, there's nothing really that beats them for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it an A plus.
Yeah.
To me, it's a it's pretty much a perfect record.
Yeah.
All right, album 4, Reflector.
All right, fun fact about this album. I used to hate this album.
Ooh.
Not really hate it. I just didn't like it.
Well, that's not fun.
Yeah, I guess it's not really fun, But I mean, I remember I was obsessed with Arcade Fire. I was listening to all their albums, and then I got to this one, and I saw that it was like 70 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of long, But I mean, it'll probably be good, And then I listened to it. I just didn't like it. Like, none of the songs really stuck out to me. The only one I really remember liking was Joan of Arc, which I definitely do love that song a lot. And then I didn't really listen to it for a long time. Like, I just kind of forgot about it. It was just, whenever I listened to Arcade Fire, it was just one of the first three, maybe Everything Now, and this one just did not exist. And then one time I just randomly decided to listen to it, and it blew me away. Like, it's so good.
I can totally see that. Like, this is one of those records I feel like that would do that. To me, this is like what this Reflector to the Suburbs is like Kid A to OK Computer. You know, it's like you make this like magnum opus, and you know it's just this record that everybody already knew you were a good band, and then you make that record OK Computer and Radiohead's Case, and everybody's like, wow, this is like maybe one of the greatest records in years. And you know, that's the Suburbs. And then you come out with Reflector or Kid A, and everybody's like, what is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
But it cements you as a band that's not afraid
right
to just go out and do whatever they want, you know? So, I mean, when it comes down to this, the only thing I don't like this album for. I mean, I don't dislike this album. I love this album, but I think it's a little bit more spotty than the other albums. I think there are a couple songs on here that they could have cut. If they did, it would be a perfect album. You know, I don't really like Flashball Bias. I think that song's just kind of boring and very uninteresting. Here Comes the Nighttime too. I mean, it kind of just feels like filler. And then You Already Know is, I mean, I don't dislike it. It's just it's kind of forgettable for me. Not terrible, but you know, not my favorite. But I mean, all the other songs are amazing. You know, Reflector is iconic. It has David Bowie singing backup. We Exist is pretty awesome, and Normal Person is another great one. And you know, I think the best part of the song is the last 5 tracks, because you know, it's Awful Sound through Supersymmetry. Awful Sound is a beautiful song. You know, it talks about that one Greek myth about I can't remember, but it's some Greek myth.
Okay.
But which is kind of the narrative for the last 5 songs. And then there's what's the song after that?
I'm sorry, after which one?
After It's Never Over.
Yeah.
Which
okay, it's Orpheus and Eurydice. Like,
yeah.
That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Like, that's the myth you're thinking of. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the names of the action. I was like, is there another myth? Because it's just Orpheus and Eurydice.
Yeah. Yeah, but Orpheus is it's. And when I was going back and listening to this album, I mean, it just blew me away. I'd forgotten how amazing that song was, and it's one of my favorite songs by them. And then it has a weird name, but you know, Porno it's beautiful. That song always blew me away. It's the most electronic song of theirs, but it's one of my favorites of theirs. You know, and then Afterlife. I mean, just it's. I know I keep on saying this, but it's one of their best songs. Like, that song's always hit me.
Might have to do a video about their best songs.
Yeah, maybe we should. But I mean, that song always hit me. You know, it just feels so so sad, but it also has a bit of hope in there. And I mean, it's amazing. You know, it's everything that I love about Arcade Fire, and yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, so you know, this album to me is just a really really interesting record. It's like to me it feels like the one that you can go deepest into, and I feel like I've only kind of barely scratched the surface, but I really appreciate it on a sonic level. It's interesting. I really like some of the some of the reggae influence that you don't seem to be particularly fond of on this record, right? And so, you know, to me, like all those like kind of those weird sonic elements that they throw in different parts.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool, and I think it's cool too that they kind of take this step into more electronic music with this record too.
And we definitely see them carry that in. Sorry, we definitely see them do that more, like especially on Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. Favorite track?
Afterlife.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
You know, I would probably go with It's Never Over, Hey Orpheus, but to me that feels like a very unfinal pick.
Yeah.
Like I feel like even though I've listened to this record a lot, I feel like in a lot of ways I'm still digesting it. Like I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around it. So,
Mm-hmm.
what grade would you give it?
A plus.
A plus. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I was thinking you were sounding a little negative on this one, but okay.
No, I mean I did say that this one is the most spotty so far, but
okay.
I mean the great moments on this album make up for those spotty moments. Like, yeah, so it's an A plus for me.
You're just along for the thrill ride, the roller coaster of it all. I gotcha. All right.
What about you?
I give it an A. I give it an A. Yeah. So, I just really think there's a lot of fascinating themes. I love that they start to get very mythical on this, and this just seems like a record. Like, I really just need to spend more time with this record.
Yeah.
And the more I do, the more I appreciate it. So
yeah. See, that's what happened to me. I didn't really pay attention when I listened to it, and I just when I did try to dive into it more, I appreciated it so much more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right on. All right, album 5, Everything Now.
Yeah, this one's pretty interesting in for their discography. It's probably their most hated album. A lot of people, hate it. They say it's, it's not good, which I can understand where they're coming from. I think that it's definitely their spottiest. Because, there's 13 songs, and it starts off the first 4 or 3 songs if you don't count Everything Now Continued, but the first 4 songs are all great. I think Everything Now Continued starts it off in an interesting way, and Everything Now is so catchy. Like, I mean, it's always got me kind of bopping when I'm listening to it.
Reminds me of ABBA.
Yeah, yeah.
And I say that actually as a compliment. I'm like, it actually, it has that like kind of, with the the strings and everything. It does feel like kind of, something like Dancing Queen or something like that.
Yeah. Signs of Life is also pretty catchy, and Creature Comfort is probably my favorite on the album. I always just love the synth groove on this one.
Nice.
But then starting with Peter Pan, I think it just takes it just goes downhill so quickly. I think that song is so boring. And there's Chemistry, which is just like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
I can see. I guess I can see why. I guess I'm just catching up to that idea that like a lot of people think those songs are annoying. And I guess I can see why that is. To me, coming from remembering, I guess like there were a lot of annoying songs when I was a kid, and REM was so bad about this, right? REM would be like, just make amazing. Just the most amazing music, and then they'd be like, "Stand in the place where you were," or they'd be "Shiny Happy," which actually I like "Shiny Happy People" now, but just these songs that like completely stand out, and you're like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And I guess when I listen, and I haven't listened to this album nearly as much as some of the other ones, but those songs didn't stand out to me and be like, oh, this is really annoying when I was listening to it. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because
it didn't the first couple times.
Well, and I listened to it now, and I was like, okay, yeah, these like the lyrics are a little like questionable. They're a little like silly.
Yeah. And to me, Chemistry just kind of feels like a joke.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I'm not sure if it's a joke. I don't know if it's like
they don't really seem like the kind of band to put jokes on their records.
But I feel like they're smart enough to know that the song isn't good.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, I guess that could be a certain level of irony with it now, but yeah, I mean this Everything Now. Favorite track. What's your favorite track from the record?
Probably Creature Comfort, but I think the album ends on such a great note with Put Your Money on Me and We Don't Deserve Love, especially We Don't Deserve Love. That's a close second for my favorite.
Yeah, those are definitely both good tracks. I mean, I just go with Everything Now. I think the title track is probably my favorite on this record, but Put Your Money on Me definitely stood out to me as well. Again, Regine coming in with that, I'm just like, just that high, like those high vocals, man, it just like gives you chills, right?
Yeah.
So what would you grade this album?
Probably around a B.
B.
B, maybe C plus. I don't know.
Ooh.
It's not bad.
Nosedive. All right.
Well, wait, no, C plus better than C, or is it worse?
C plus is better than C.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like a strong C to a light B for me. So
I mean, I give it a B plus. I'd give it a B
okay,
plus. So, but I can, to me, it's like, it was a little bit of a step. In fact, I don't even remember this. I didn't even realize this album was out for like until like a couple of years after it came out.
but like I remember you told me at one point like, sorry,
Okay.
I remember at one point I like. I don't remember. I like asked you what you were listening to at one point. You said Arcade Fire's new album, and it was around this time. It was around like this time when Everything Now came out. So I don't know. Maybe it was so forgettable that you just don't remember listening to it.
Well, I remember seeing it was out. I thought it was around 20. It may have been 2018. I thought it was 2019. Um, but which would have been a couple of years after it had come
Okay.
out. So maybe I was listening to Reflector right before this one came out. So I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know, but
Yeah.
anyway, to me, I can see this album growing on me more over time, though.
Yeah, and I mean, if it weren't for those just complete stinkers on here, it would be a pretty great album. Like if you just cut that middle section with Peter Pan through Infinite Content, then it would be a pretty good album. But that's just I don't understand why they need to put those 4 songs on here. I mean, you could have put it probably wouldn't have been that hard to write 1 or 2 better songs, you know.
Yeah, I kind of look at everything now. Now I think about that Infinite Content song, and to me, it's like maybe they really were trying to be sort of like maybe they are trying to be a little bit ironic on this album. Like,
Yeah.
maybe this was their grand attempt at like making. I know, they draw influence from like Talking Heads and that kind of thing, and Talking Heads definitely, and does a lot with irony throughout their work. So maybe they were trying to go for a little bit of that vibe right here. But anyway, so LP6, which we've already done a review of.
Yeah, we have done a review, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. We'll just kind of scratch the surface here, I guess. But I mean, it's only been out for a month at this point, but I think it's a lot. I think it's better than Everything Now. It's more consistent. There's not really a bad song on here. The only time where I'm just kind of, I'm not really into it is End of the Empire 4. But even then, it's the lyrics on that song are just kind of annoying to me. But the highlights for me are the Age of Anxiety songs. I think especially Age of Anxiety 2, where they go more into those electronic elements that they kind of scratch the surface with on Reflector.
Yeah.
I love Unconditional 2, which is Regine's song with Peter Gabriel.
Yep.
I don't think his feature is as iconic as David Bowie's, but it's still pretty cool to see him on here. And the Lightning 1 and 2 is just a classic Arcade Fire song, you know? So, yeah. Not really a bad song on here for me.
Yeah. I agree. It's I think it was smart for them to make a little bit of a shorter album and make sure that everything, everything fit well. They went and made The Suburbs, and they went and made Reflector, which are two very long, like very epic albums, and then they maybe try to do that again with Everything Now, and it was like you just need to make like a good solid like 10-song record.
Yeah, like they did it with Funeral.
Like a good just one LP, right?
Yeah.
Fit that on one slab of vinyl. Good record. They might do double vinyl just to
they
make
did
it
actually because I bought it, and
well, that's
I'm pretty sure they did double.
When you have a lot of times that's what you'll do because it makes better audio quality. Wait. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's a good record. Like it's just enjoyable from start to finish in my mind, and I don't mind the End of the Empire. And it's interesting. Maybe I was just listening to a lot of Rush before this album came out, and so I'm like I get to End of Empire 4, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I'm just in that like prog rock mindset at that point. So
yeah.
But yeah, what's your favorite track on this album?
Probably Unconditional too.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the most. I love Regine on it, and I love Peter Gabriel's feature. Close second would be the Lightning 1 and 2.
Yeah. But. So Unconditional 2, you just in your eyes that song is amazing.
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
In your eyes,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm smart. I'm funny. I'm funny.
Yeah.
I
What about
I
you?
didn't know if you were enough Peter Gabriel fan to.
Well, everyone knows In Your Eyes. So.
Of course, I know.
What's your favorite song on this album?
Sorry. Okay, Age of Anxiety 1. I love Age of Anxiety 1. That song is really beautiful to me.
Mm-hmm.
It just it hit me right in the feels when I like really. I think probably the second or third time I listened to it, and I think I was feeling a lot of anxiety. You know, you just different times you feel anxiety about different things, and man, it just spoke right. It just spoke right to me, and it's a beautiful song in and of itself. So, you know, I really do love that song. And a close second would be "We," the last track on the album. I think it's a really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love more like just kind of the quieter acoustic moments mixed in from this band. You know, I think they need to do more of that on future records
instead of making Chemistry.
Yeesh. All right. Well, that's the 6 records. Oh, what grade would you give We?
B plus. Yeah. I mean, it might get higher as time goes on. I don't know, but I'm thinking a decent B plus on this one. So, what about you?
A minus.
A minus. Okay.
Yeah. You see, for me with my grade system, I'm like C is average, and so it's just some like, you know, average rock band putting out a record. So in general, I'm probably unless a band puts out like, you know, a really good band puts out a pretty bad record for them, I'm gonna usually be a or a B. Not in all cases, but anyway, that's a whole interesting debate in and of itself.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna rank these. Brandon's gonna go first. Before we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to Beards of Kentucky, and talk to us in the comments below. Let us hear what's on your mind about Arcade Fire. Before we dive into those last tracks, any like B-sides or anything you want to particularly highlight that you think are worthy of it? I know we didn't discuss that beforehand, but
yeah, I mean, I haven't really dove into the B-sides all that much. I mean, I've probably heard a couple, but I mean, not really. Any that you want to talk about?
Well, I would just say "Cold Wind" is a really cool, like, our Funeral era B-side that I think is worth checking out. There are some other ones that are good, but I'm not prepared to talk about them. So.
Yeah, I just wanna mention this real quickly about We. So something interesting is that in the End of the Empire, I heard that parts of it are actually from the Funeral area. So that's pretty funeral era. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah,
just little leftovers, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. You know, it's only. I mean, in 2 years, Funeral is going to be 20 years old. I wonder if they're going to do some kind of 20th anniversary, like, deluxe edition. And
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Then there's like a 10, you know, maybe there's like a whole other LP that they never released. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Well, I heard that they made like 3 LPs with We, so, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's usually extra songs, and especially if they were producing it themselves. It's like, I bet they made a lot of music. So
yeah,
that's just one of those records that'd be cool to see, like, how it all came together. You know?
Yeah, sort of like with OK Computer and, you know.
Yeah.
Kid A.
Faux show. All right. Yeah, so let's rank them. So you're going first, right?
All right. So this is going to be from worst to best. At the bottom is Everything Now, which I don't think that surprises many people, you know. It would probably be higher if you just cut out those middle songs, Peter Panther Infinite Content. You know, they're just very boring or bad. So if they'd cut those, I think the album would have felt a little more focused.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, We, pretty great comeback. You know, it's only been around for a month, so I mean, it might grow on me more. I don't know, but I think it's a good album. And I like it. Number 4, this is where it gets really hard, but I'm gonna go with the controversial pick, The Suburbs. As much as I do love the album, it used to be my favorite, but you know, I've just you know, it's I guess I just like the other albums more.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So number 3, another controversial one, Funeral.
Wow.
So a lot of people are gonna hate me for that one, but you know, Funeral
You're fired.
is. Dang it! Can I finish the list though?
Yeah, fine. Might
Okay.
as well.
Well, Funeral is maybe the greatest debut album of all time, and I love it because it was the first, you know, Arcade Fire album that I heard. But like I said with The Suburbs, I just like the other albums better. Number 2, this one was really hard, but Reflector. You know, it was really tight, between this and Neon Bible, but like, I think if they had dropped maybe Flashball Buys, it would be number one. I just think Flashball Buys is kind of useless. And then number one is Neon Bible, which I have a bunch of great memories associated with it, and I think the songs on there are just so good. There's not a song on there that I'm like, there's no skip on there. So I mean, yeah, Neon Bible is my favorite Arcade Fire album. So, what about you?
All right, good list. So, I went with Everything Now as number 6. Probably no surprise there.
Yeah.
Number 5 is We, though. I mean, it's really good, so it feels kind of weird to put it that far down the list.
Well,
but this is Arcade Fire.
This is Arcade Fire, so
yeah.
I mean,
Neon Bible's number 4 for me. Neon Bible number 4. It's been growing on me over the years. Like, it just steadily has been growing on me and gets better and better. But I just feel like there's 3 other albums in their discography that are better than it. So,
yeah.
Number 3 is The Suburbs. The Suburbs.
Okay.
I will say with these last 3, I kind of like went back and forth on all 3 of them.
Oh yeah, I was right when I was sorry. Right when I was saying them, I was like, "Oh, should I is Reflector number 1? Is Neon Bible number 1?" I couldn't. It was pretty hard to decide, so I just went with my original choice. But,
yeah, totally. And you want to guess between Reflector and Funeral?
I'm gonna go with Reflector, just because.
As what, number 2 or number 1?
Number 2, just because you said that. You've spent more time with Funeral.
Okay, all right.
So
you know me well. Reflector number 2, yeah. And I probably had The Suburbs above it initially, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, I just find this record really, really interesting, and like sonically, and to me, is really great when a record to me just feels like it's inexhaustible in terms of like growing and appreciation of it, and I feel like Reflector is that kind of record. Like, it's just the Suburbs at some point, and I shouldn't put it this way, but what I was gonna say is it feels like you spent some time with it and you kind of have your mind wrapped around like what they were, talking about on that record and everything like that. I think there's probably more to it than that, but Reflector to me is just like, it's so like, I love a weird record that's also a really good record and enjoyable, and to me that's what Reflector is.
Yeah. I mean, Reflector is definitely their most experimental album.
Yeah.
I mean,
and to do an experimental album where the songs are all, so many of the songs are so good is really difficult. So
yeah.
So I do appreciate that, highly appreciate that about that. And then of course Funeral at number 1 for me. So yeah, just it's 10 perfect songs, and as far as I'm concerned, beautiful production, just an all-time classic. Classic. So yeah. All right, well, any final thoughts on the Arcade Fire discography? We might, I'm sure at some point we'll come back and maybe do a deep dive on some more of these records. That's something else we're going to do on this channel, so you'll want to subscribe so you know when we do. We're going to spend time with, classic albums and talk about those albums in depth and why they're so good. So, because the classic albums are worth doing that with. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Brandon?
No, I mean, Arcade Fire is a great band, and if you haven't checked them out already and you're a music fan, like, I mean, what are you doing? Like, I mean,
I thought you were gonna say like you should, and you're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, I mean, both. You definitely should if you haven't. So if you haven't, use this video to as sort of like a launching off point. So I mean, probably start with Funeral, not with Neon Bible, but Anyway, so yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching. Drop us, just say, hey, what's up in the comments below. Let's keep that conversation going. How would you rank Arcade Fire's albums? Where did we get it wrong? Why is Everything Now really their number 1 album? You tell us in the comments below.
Tell us why Chemistry is the greatest song ever written.
Tell us why. Tell us why. And I'm sure we will be doing our ranking our top 10 Arcade Fire tracks here video before soon. So again, subscribe, hit that notification bell. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and we will talk at you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.